If you're still missing spares, here's what you need to do to become a better spare shooter. So the most common thing I see with people that aren't very good spare shooters is that they don't have a spare system. Having a spare system is one of the most important factors in picking up spares. Because if you don't know where you're gonna stand, you don't know what you're looking at, how could you possibly hope to pick up the spare? A lot of people just pick up their ball, start moving, throw the shot, target the pin. Not the most ideal way to shoot spares. So today I'm gonna teach you guys how I shoot my spares and how to become a better spare shooter. Here we have the most popular pin that everyone leaves, the 10 pin. Now we've got 7-10 set up just for the sake of having both up so I don't have to reset them. I'm gonna walk you through how I pick up my 10 pin and then we're gonna progress through a bunch of other common spares. So when I shoot my single pins, I target roughly the same area. I look at 21 for my right side spares, 20 for my left side spares, but it's gonna be around there. When I first developed my spare shooting system, it was 20 for everything and I just moved my feet. So I'm gonna set up on 35. Now where you set up is not the most important part. When you're shooting the spare, obviously you wanna set up in the same spot, but you really wanna pay attention to where you're sliding. So I'm looking at 21, but I know my targeting system, my ball's gonna go through about 3 boards further left at the arrows. So I know that I drift about 3 to 4 left. Let's shoot a spare, we'll see where we'll end up. Watch this brick. Now I didn't post my shot. I actually drifted 6 there. The ball probably went through about 25 there. So what I really want to exaggerate is you have a lot of room to pick up a spare. So you think about the width of the pin, the width of the ball, you got 50% of the ball on each side. So you really have about this much room to pick up a spare, a single pin spare. It's a lot. So when you miss it, you actually miss by a lot more than you think. Now we don't want to think about that. Now let's shoot another one. I'm gonna try to post my shot this time and really watch where my ball goes through the arrows. As I'm shooting spares and you see how much I'm kind of drifting by and still picking up spares, you'll start to realize that shooting spares is really like shooting free throws. So I slid 40 there. That's probably about 25-ish again, maybe 24. It was close to it's gonna be in that area. So shooting spares is really about just hitting this area. Now obviously, the more dialed in you get, when you miss, it might feel like a miss, but you might still pick up the spare. When you practice, you really wanna dial in, hitting the center of that pin, making sure the ball hits the pin twice. Obviously I haven't done that yet. Let's try to give it a run here. I'm gonna pick up one more 10 pin here, and then we'll start moving through other spares. The important things to note, you wanna pay attention to where you're sliding, because if that is different in burying, that can make you more inconsistent shooting spares. You also want to make sure you're hitting your target, obviously. So I've drifted a variable about 1 so far, 6 the first time, 5 the second time, hit about the same target. Result was the same. So if that doesn't tell you guys that shooting spares isn't like a dead-on science, then I don't know what does. But we're gonna shoot one more, and then we'll go on to explain how to shoot some other ones. 24. Slid 25, close to a double tap, not quite perfect, but essentially that's where I'm at for my 10 pins. I'm drifting about 5 right now on my spares. So how I shoot my spares, specifically my single pins, it's about 2.5 to 3 boards in between each pin as you're crossing the lane. So if I set up a 6 pin here, I'm gonna move 2 boards to the right. It's gonna be anywhere between 2 and 3. I know I said 2.5. You can fine tune this based on which direction you're hitting more often. Let's say you're hitting the right side of the pin more often. You're using the same target. I'm still looking at 21. And just imagine a straight line from the pin to your release point. And if you're hitting one specific side of the pin, move in that direction. So I'm moving towards the pin to change the angle of attack. So if I'm missing to the right or it's consistently right, I'm gonna move to the right a little bit, and that's gonna straighten out our angle as we're looking at the same target. All right, let's put up a 6 pin. All right, this is gonna be a very simple adjustment here. More or less the same thing. We're gonna be looking at the same target. I'm moving 2 boards to the right, so I was starting on 35 for my 10 pins. I'm looking at the same target once again, looking at 21, and I am now standing on 33. So this is my move for the 6 pin. Like I said, it could be between 2 and 3 boards different between each pin crossing the lane. So I slid 37 there. That was about a 4-board drift. And as I'm crossing the lane, I'm actually walking towards the pin more and more as I'm moving right. So let's switch things up a lot here, actually. We're gonna go for the 7 pin. All right, now for the 7 pin, let's count. I stand on 35 for my 10 pins, again, looking at 21. For my 7 pins, I'll stand on 17. So that's 18 boards different. I actually look at 20, I think once I get past a certain point, I think with the 2 pin. My biggest tip for shooting left side spares, if you're gonna use the spare shooting system, and the system is if you're looking at the same target and just moving your feet, I actually angle my feet differently. I shut my hips down. So if you see my feet, it's in a closed stance, so my hips are shut and everything's going towards the 7 pin. And here, I actually drift more because I'm going towards the spare. It's almost as if I'm shooting a 10 pin, but I'm just turning the lane. So it's the same concept. And a lot of people struggle going from right to left because they might be starting way too open. Their swing might get too far behind them. Now they have to cross their body to shoot the spare, and that becomes inconsistent. But for me, I try to eliminate the variables. I'm kind of treating it like the lane is straight at the pin and the pin not being on the left side of the lane. So from there, I slid 27. That was almost a 10 board drift. So I'm walking towards the spare. That drift is way more than as if I were to shoot the 10 pin, and that's because I want to go towards the spare. Now, one tip I want to throw in there, you see this button? It says reset. If you want to be a great spare shooter, don't hit that. Shoot every spare imaginable that you leave. I don't care how ridiculous it is. Get creative if you leave something that's very uncommon. Try to pick spares off of certain leaves. Really anything you could do to get the mind flowing and to get those spare reps in. You're gonna throw plenty of strike shots in your time as a bowler. The most underrated part of the game is the spare shooting. If you're a great spare shooter, you're always gonna be in contention. Now I line up on 20 here for my 4 pins, and that's about 3 boards from my 7 pin. And that's just kind of what I've come to. Again, it's gonna be between 2 and 3 boards per pin crossing the lane. For the 4 pin, that's 3 boards left of my 7 pin, and I'm looking at the same target, 20. There I slid 29, which is about 2 boards different than my drift from the 7 pin, which makes sense because now I'm actually closing my angles. I'm not going across the lane as much, so the drift is gonna be a little bit smaller, just so I can keep things a little more square to the lane. We're gonna wrap up shooting some single pin spares there. My dad always told me if I was a 97% single pin spare shooter, that's pretty good. And by pretty good, in my dad's standards, that's elite. If you can get to 97% in your leagues, especially in the tournaments, you're gonna be pretty good. We're gonna shoot the 3-6-10 here, and the concept is still the same. We're gonna be looking at the same target, and we're just moving our feet. I actually stay in the same spot that I shoot my 6 pins. I kind of favor the left side of the 6 pin for whatever reason, but I stay in the same spot. You figure if the ball hits the center of the 6 pin, you pick up the 3-6-10 every time. You want everything to be the same, nice and loose, keep that swing straight. That's another thing, if your swing's not straight, that's something you gotta work on to become an elite spare shooter. All right, now lucky for us, that was just a miss left. I wasn't paying attention to what I was hitting. Spare shooting is largely feel, so I don't really dial in what I'm looking at. But when you're practicing, you really want to pay attention to what you're hitting, where you're sliding. You know, you can make a chart, keep track of the numbers, just so you know, like when you miss, what happens. The 3-6-10 is actually a little forgiving in that you can hit the left or the right side. We're gonna try to hit the right side though, but you wanna try to keep everything the same. It's just from point A to point B. Don't think about how many pins are up there. Just think about slide in the right spot, hit your target, which is probably why I hit the left side of the spare, because I was thinking too much about, oh my God, it's a 3-6-10. There we go. At about 24, 25, pretty much the target, pick up the spare. Textbook. Now, a lot of you may be wondering why I'm throwing a reactive ball at my spares. When I was younger, my dad taught my brother and I to flatten our wrists out, throw it hard and straight at our spares. That way we minimize the variables. We would throw the strongest balls we owned until we were able to get the ball to go as straight as possible. So it didn't matter what we threw, and that gave us another slot in the bag if we had a limited ball tournament, like in college or like junior gold. You know, only allowed 5 or 6 bowling balls. Having that extra option could be huge. Now for the two-handers, I 100% recommend throwing a plastic ball because you're gonna generate a lot more power, a lot more rev rate. Your ball's gonna read the lane way more than a one-hander would. And I would say the same for those of you that may struggle to throw it straight, flatten your hand out, or throw it fast enough. But essentially, you just need to get your ball going forward enough or fast enough so that it doesn't move left to right or right to left, depending on what hand you use. All right, so moving on. We have the 3-10, exact same spare as the 3-6-10. You just want to shoot the gap. It's like shooting a 6-pin, throw it straight, you center the 6-pin, you pick up the spare every time. So I'm standing in the same spot again, 33. I'm looking at 21. I'm probably gonna end up sliding 37, 38, and I'm gonna hit about 24, 25. I slid 32 there, it was about 24 at the arrows, and we aced the spare. So it's really just understanding kind of where you're at with your game, what your miss is. You know, my miss, I wouldn't call it a miss. I think they call that a parallax, where you hit further left than you're looking at. And that's really normal. So if you are concerned about hitting your target and you feel like you're missing a little to the left, it doesn't really matter that much as long as you're hitting the same spot every time and you understand that that's the case. We're gonna move on to our pretty basic washout here, the 1, 2, 4, 10. Now again, I throw it straight, same spare shooting system, everything remains the same. It's like you're shooting a single pin, but you're just modifying it a little bit. I know we didn't talk about the 2 pin, so we're gonna talk about it now. Interestingly enough, I line up on 22.5 for the 2 pin. That's just kind of a spot I came to, possibly because of this scenario though. If I'm shooting a 2 pin and I wanna dead flush it, I'm standing on 22.5. If I have the wash up here with certain machines, namely the GSX, which is what we're bowling on here, it's prone to bouncing off the wall and wrapping the 10 pin. I'm gonna move a half to the left, 23 with my feet, look at 20. I'm trying to get it off the wall a little more or drive it straight back. I'm just changing the angle a little bit. The reason why I stand here is just because of how it was bouncing off the wall. I'm just gonna throw it straight at the head pin. But again, it's probably gonna go through 23 or 24. No. This is a tough one. You gotta be a little more precise when you're shooting this washout for the sole fact that you can label the 1, 2, 4 and wrap the 10 pin, which is really unfortunate. But if you miss a half a board on either side, you either flush the 10 pin with the head pin or you get the head pin to come off the wall and take out the 10. So now there's gonna be some comments asking why I'm not hooking at this and just trying to go Brooklyn. And the reason is it's not gonna be the same across all the patterns we bowl on. House shot, spore shot, whatever you're bowling on, even different bowling centers. It's not gonna be a reliable way and a consistent way to shoot this spare because you just don't know what the ball's gonna do, which is why we always go hard and straight. So with that being said, if we miss, that's on us. There we go, hard and straight. All right, now we're gonna upgrade the washout. This is what we call the super washout or the PBA washout on tour. I don't really know why it's called that. The angle of attack here is actually different. I completely shift away from my standard spare shooting system. And there are gonna be specific spares where you're like, this doesn't really work for me. I'm gonna do something different for this spare. And this spare in particular is just that. I'm gonna shoot this one left to right. I'm actually gonna look at 25 here. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I have a couple of chances on either side of the head pin to pick up this spare. So if I miss to the left, I can flush the head pin into the 610. And if I hit my target, the ball's gonna take out the 1 and the 6 pin and typically pick up the whole thing. So right here, I'm standing on 35 where I would normally stand for the 10 pin, but I'm looking at 25 now. I actually hit the head pin a little heavy there, but we're creating a different angle. Yeah, we're running the risk of taking the head pin straight back, but again, this just gives us a couple of different options. If I'm shooting the super washout like I would the regular washout without the 6 pin, I already explained that you could wrap the 10 pin pretty easily doing that, so you're even less likely to catch the 6 pin if you catch the head pin a little skinny shooting it from right to left. So that's the reason why I shoot the super washout from left to right. All right, now we're gonna move on to one of the hardest spares on tour. The 3-6-10 is by and large probably the hardest spare for makeable spares, but now we add the 9 pin. There are a lot of ways to go about attacking this, and again, I'm just gonna go hard and straight. So you might be asking, why are we throwing it straight at this? Again, it's situational. If you're bowling on something a little easier and you know the ball's gonna hook back every time, you can hook it if you want. It's so easy to get 2, and count is very important, especially if you're on a double or a strike, because if you're getting 2 off of that, you're losing 2 pins instead of getting the extra 1. So if I throw it straight and I'm remotely close to my target, I'm getting at least 3 every time. So I'm just looking to hit the head pin heavy. I'm actually gonna move 1 board left of where I would shoot the super washout and just make sure I hit the 3 heavy. So I didn't hit it heavy. I missed a little right, but I got the maximum amount of count without picking up the spare. So obviously that's not what we want, but that's the next best scenario. So that's a miss on my part. Gonna try to hit the head pin heavy, and it gives us a lot of different ways to make the spare. You'll be the left side, the right side. We just gotta hit that 3 pin heavy. And that one, we're kind of scaring leaving the 6 pin a little bit. Sometimes the 6 pin wraps around the 10 pin, and that's why it's one of the harder spares to pick up, just because there's so many ways to miss it. But there are also a handful of ways to pick it up, throwing it straight. Again, this one is kind of personal preference. If you want to hook it, you can, but personally, I throw it straight. Now we have another one of the most difficult spares on tour, the 2-8. Now, you might be asking, yeah, the 2-8 is pretty easy. I pick it up all the time in the league. We don't always have free hook, and when there is free hook out there, it makes it easy. But when the lanes get cliffed or when they get flat, flat meaning when we miss to the right, it doesn't hook, or when we miss to the left, it hooks too much, or cliff, if we miss left, it doesn't hook. and miss right hooks too much, that's when it gets tricky. Thankfully here we have I wouldn't say they're terribly difficult, but it's 38 feet, and I know it hooks off the gutter, so I just wanna make sure I get close enough to the right. Typically we're moving about 5 to the right if you're gonna throw it the same. On tour it gets dangerous for us because the front of the lane hooks so much, so a 5-board move might be more than that. So a lot of guys like to move maybe 2 and throw it slower, or not move at all and throw it slower. For the sake of this video, we didn't throw any strike shots, so I'm not really sure how much I would be moving to the right. I'm just gonna stand where I think I need to. I am gonna hook this. It's the only spare that I don't throw it straight at, because your chances of picking it up are actually higher if you hook it, because you gotta create a little bit of angle. You have to be almost near perfect and hit the 2-pin head on if you're throwing it straight. We wanna play the odds game. Hooking it here increases our odds a little bit. Now I would say that's pretty picture perfect. You want to make sure you have enough angle though, because you could hook it, your ball could roll out, which means flatten out, go straight, lose a bunch of energy, hit the 2-pin only, deflect to the right and miss the 8-pin. So you kind of have to be a little more strategic with the 2-8. Just make sure you're in the right place, you're committed to it, make a good shot. All right, we're gonna ramp up the difficulty here. We're gonna set up a split. It's gonna be the 6, 7, 10. Now you can draw this up the same way as any other spare. Same system, you're gonna move your feet accordingly. Your target's gonna be the same with the arrows. So for this one, I'm gonna line it for a 10-pin. If I hit the 10-pin straight back, our chances of picking this up is pretty good. So when you're shooting spares, and I see this way too often, people throw it super hard at their splits because they're trying to pick it up. Well, your odds of picking up splits is much lower, and it's gonna be more costly in the end than you going for the count. Those pins add up over time, especially if they're hard, if splits are plenty. Getting those pins could add up to 10, 20, 36 over a block, and if you end up missing the cut by a handful of pins, that's where you're missing out the easiest number of pins. So I'm gonna line it for a 10-pin here. I'm actually gonna move a half left just to make sure I hit a little more on the right side of the head pin, and we'll see if we can pick this up. All right, even though we missed the spare there, I mean, it was a little left, and I'm a little left biased right now on the right side spares. We got the count, you know, and if we strike on that, we have, let's say we start strike open, we have 28 in the second instead of 26 if we were to just get 1. So that's 2 pins right there. And if you guys want to start increasing your average, make sure you get the count on the spares. The only time you really want to go for a split is if you're down in a match or you're really close to making the cut and you think you need the spare, go for it. But any other situation, if you're just pulling qualifying and the pins, like it's not vital that you need this spare, go for the count every time. It'll pay off in the long run more often than you trying to go for the hero shot. Let's go 2. I'll try to pick it clean. Double tap. There we go. That's my spare system for you guys. If this helped you guys improve your spares, let us know in the comment section down below. If this video helped in any way possible, make sure you hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.